Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not welcome back to Nick Month 2. This time it's personal. We're still in the vault here, and we're taking a look at the victorious episode, The Breakfast Bunch, which is a reference and a parody of, reference to and a parody of The Breakfast Club. Yeah, it's the 30th anniversary edition. Came out in 2015. Alright. It's now 40 years. This movie is now 40 years old in Geek. I grew up with this as a teenager. And yes, you may ask, well, why would this show from 2011, 12, maybe even 13 at this point, who knows? Be doing an episode dedicated to this. Well, you know, they're the 40-year-old men that are in charge seeing the movie. But also, I discovered the movie as a teenager, so some other teenagers might have discovered it, and then they see this, which is a show for teenagers, by the way. People make too many complaints. Oh, this is a kid show. It's a show for teenagers. So some of the references here, they changed. This episode is basically a 30-minute PG version of The Breakfast Club. Is what it is. It replaces certain aspects with other aspects. Yeah. I do think there's too many characters here, and they use that to just kind of throw lines to anyone. Like, you have people dressed as people like Tori is supposed to be the princess, but then also Kat is wearing all pink, so she's Claire too. Robbie is clearly Brian, but they just have most of the Brian lines. Andre is Andrew, Emilio Estevez. Beck is obviously Bender, and then they're dressed like, I should say, and Jade is dressed like Allison, but they all behave differently, and the lines jump from person to person should they need to throw it out there. We also get a one-time appearance from Vice Principal Dickers, played by Rob Riggle. Funny character actor. I love when I see him in stuff. The Hangover. In the face! He's always also pretty good in 21 Jump Street, but yeah, he's funny in this. The only time we see him, because he's parroting Mr. Richard Vernon, the late Paul Gleason from The Breakfast Club, who, I have to correct the Chris of the average here, he was not the vice principal or an authority figure like that. He was just a teacher. That's why the janitor catches him in the personnel files or in the student files, which he's not supposed to be in because he's not an authority person. If he was a vice principal, he'll be able to look at it, but he's just a teacher. I always thought he was the principal too, but in after watching it so many times, I don't think he would be be going off on him, telling him, hey, you can be looking to the student files. There's no janitor in this one, but they replaced him with something at the end. I don't know, but we start with the Victoria Justice version of the "Don't You Forget About Me" song, which, again, to throw shade to Aggressively Average, I like this version of the song. I like the original version better, but I don't think this is bad. He just didn't like it, I guess. But I like it. And they're all coming to school, and right away, we find out why they're there. Although it is kind of confusing. They're there because Robbie made them all late for class. He was choking on a pretzel. They all had to help him stop choking on a pretzel? That's kind of sus. I don't know. Well, we meet Vice Principal Dickers, who calls everyone Waz bags, and in this world, Waz means to pee, so they're all pee bags, apparently. I gotta take a Waz. Yeah. Waz bags. They come up with weird words instead of swearing, like Waz or chiz. Although I wouldn't use chiz because it sounds like something else. Yeah, they have to go to the library just like the original movie. You also get like the breaking of the glass. You get the photos. You get certain things they're copying this movie to a T, and everything is just thrown in there for a 30-minute episode. I mean, this should have been an hour-long special. Who knows? They wouldn't be able to work more into it. Although, if they had the full half hour, they probably would have thrown a beat plot in, because I don't know how much more they could get out of this. They threw everything at the wall to see if it could stick, and they did, but yeah. In there, Dickers takes all their phones in a box and just leaves it on the desk, and he says, "Hey, you want something to eat? There's tuna." And we get lines like, "Hey, we get lines from the movie like, "Hey, you want another one?" "Yes." "You got it." You know, the whole that thing. I want to start doing the another movie version. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Your mother was a hoe. He was a famous clown. Bo. Mitch. Stop. That's another. I confused. Then another for Mitch. And another. I confused. I like that. Eat my shorts. And it's again, they don't keep them just because they look like the characters. They don't go with that. It's Jade doing the Bender lines. Tori is the princess, but then not really. They're going back and forth because it's sort of a Bender thing. I do like that Jade does the spit and it lands in Rex's mouth. That's kind of funny, but yeah. And I like the change in line. You mess with the cow, you get the udders. I always like that. You mess with the cow, you get the udders. Yeah. Then we get a bunch of them doing nothing. You know, the whole thing. You got Andre is flossing his teeth, just like Andrew and his drawstrings. Although Andre has drawstrings, so I don't know. By the way, Andrew, close, doing certain things, and the cat's doing the like Allison in the movie, but the picture, but it's not dandruff, it's glitter. Yeah. Then they start talking about they're getting hungry. They don't want to eat that tuna. The tuna. It's an iCarly reference there. So they say, you know what I'm hungry for? Tacos. How'd you know? I feel you, dog. I like that. Tacos. So the plan is to call Trina and have her deliver tacos into Tori's locker, which will, set up another reference. But we get a scene of Jade asking Kat if she's a vegan, which is a reference to the movie where he asks Andrew if he's a virgin. Are you a virgin? Or when he goes off on Claire, a virgin? Vegan here, because kids show or teen show, PG version I could say. But they do go, and again I gotta throw this out, I did comment this, because he complains on, he's like, how, reverse the average, he complained, he says, how were they able to contact Tori if Dickers has the phones? He left the phones on the desk. Apparently he wasn't paying attention to the episode because they show her going over and grabbing the phone from the box. Yeah. Yeah. So they sneak to get the tacos, and it parodies from the movie when they're running around and Vernon's walking and you get that song, "Fighting in the Twilight." I can't think. Hold on. He's burning in the twilight. Where they're running around. I had to play the song to remember it off the top of my head because I had so much going on in my head. But yeah, the whole scene where they're running and then they get to there. It's a fence or like a chain cage thing. What it is. And I have to get through here. It's a wet floor. So like, what are we gonna do? We're dead. No. Tori goes, no, just me. She's like, Bender says, just me. So she starts running around. In the movie, he's singing around, I want to be an airborne ranger. But here, she's just singing the theme song. Here I am, once again, feeling lost. But now and then, yeah. They're able to get back to... And most like in the movie, she stuffs the bag of tacos in Robbie's pants, much like... Bender sticks his doobage in Brian's undershorts. They're in Johnson undershorts. Yeah, because tacos here is the substitute for the weed in the movie. But yeah. When I get doobage from the movie, he says, hey, bum my doobage. You know. Also, Robbie is wearing a shirt that says Neo Maxi Doom Dweeby. Neo Maxi Zoom Dweeby, excuse me. Neo Maxi Zoom Dweeby, which is from the movie. Also, in the background, there's a poster that later Tori will hit with an arrow. It says 16 Randalls, which is also a nod to a John Hughes movie, 16 Candles, which I have not seen. That's one of the few that I haven't seen. That, Curly Sue. I've seen Uncle Buck, but a long, long time ago when I was a kid, but... yeah. So Diggers throws her in a closet, much like Vernon does with Bender. And we get the scene where instead of telling him to punch him, he goes, you want to be a pop star? Here, pop this. And he shows a pimple on his arm, which you can get. I have. Pop this. And then he leaves, and she sneaks through a secret passageway just like Bender does, only we don't get the naked lady joke. Naked lady walks into a bar with a watermelon in one hand and something else in the other, a little dog in the other, or something like that. We never get that. But she just shows up. She doesn't fall this time. It goes underneath them, actually, and they're having the tacos, and this is where it becomes like the weed again. But also, Robbie's not eating his taco. So now we get more of the Are You a Virgin stuff, and it becomes the parody of Bender talking to Brian, and how he kind of points to Claire. Oh. But now he does it to Tori, and he's like, oh, so you shared a taco with Tori. I don't want her to know I'm a vegan. Or like the movie, I don't want to know I'm a virgin. Yeah, so it does that. And then he does the Tori, you're conceited line like twice. He does it earlier, which makes no sense. But here, later, he does it again, but it's not yet. I just want to point that out. But like, they're talking, and you get the stuff, and then they give Kat hot sauce, and she starts coughing, and it parodies the moment from the movie. Chicks cannot handle the smoke. That's what it is. Here, I tell you, chicks cannot handle their hot sauce. The original line is better. Chicks cannot handle the smoke. That's what it is. I like that. But, yeah. But then they just start randomly laughing, which works in the movie because they're high and here they're just eating tacos. And Andre gets, this taco got me pumped. He does the thing like Andrew does of running around, punching stuff, and instead of glass shattering, it's a bird. Why is there a random bird in a cage on a Saturday at school? That's what I want to know. But, yeah. We don't have the dance scene with it yet. That's later. Because then we cut to them all sitting around the libraries where they had the deep talk in the movie. Here is just the... are we going to be like our parents? When you get old, your butt sags. Which is a parody of Allison's line. When you get old, your heart dies. And just like they talk about... Andrew's story about how he got in detention... But he taped Larry Lester's butt cheeks together is parodied here. But it's I don't want to blow my ride. I was going to tell you, they got to be good enough. But here it's like, I was taking I'm number one. My cousins always taking me number one. I could tell him off. But he drives me to school, so I don't want to blow my ride. That's what, yeah. And then, after all this deep talk, Tori goes, I have a weird talent. This is where the line comes in. You're so conceited, Tom. You're so conceited. Which works here. Because she's just got somewhere to... Because they got to squeeze everything together. I'm probably missing some stuff, too. But they got to squeeze everything together. And this is where her talent comes in. And he who shall not be named gets off on this, I'm sure. Because, well, in the movie, she takes the lipstick and puts it in between her booba. And does this. Here, Tori uses her feet to shoot a bow and arrow, which is already there, by the way. She just had it, so she was planning on showing it to begin with. To shoot an arrow, and it hits the 16 Randalls poster that I mentioned earlier. So, yeah. And then they put more lines for me that makes no sense here when Jade says, "Your daddy teach you that? Did your daddy show you how to do that?" And even Beck's like, "I'm sorry. What is happening? I'm sorry. Did I miss something?" And like they have the argument, and then they just start laughing again for no reason. And then we get the end. They're walking. They leave a note, even though they didn't have to do an assignment in this version of the version of the story. They just left it. And I like how they're all naming themselves. And me, Cat. They can't see you, baby. Oh, and it's me, Cat. Hi. I like that. Sincerely, the Breakfast Bunch. Although we never eat breakfast as a bunch, which calls out to the name of the movie. Why everybody was always asking, why is it called the Breakfast Club? They never eat breakfast. They eat lunch. There should be the lunch club. They ate lunch together. And it's also another thing. They got rid of the lunch scenes. The lunch scene, which was just a pretty good scene in its own right. They got rid of that because time constraints, I'm sure. So they just had that. So they ate the tacos. That's their thing. I also want to point out that this is a very highly paid for school in Los Angeles, California, Hollywood. And there are no cameras showing Trina sneaking into the school. I'm just saying. Diggers reads the note, and then we get everyone leaving. And instead of the janitor, because there was no janitor here, it's the panda. The panda from I Parted with Victorious, which I said in my review, if you remember, I thought it was Tebow. But now looking at it, I don't know. The height of the actor here is not that tall. Tebow's really tall. And I don't know how he could go from Seattle to Hollywood like that. I don't know, but he's there with the balloon. He gives the balloon to Tora. They all walking out. We parody the scene of where Claire gives her earring to Bender, but here it's gum. Cat gives her gum to Robbie. Oh, I forgot to mention the scene. The makeover scene. The makeover scene, which makes no sense in this version. Because in the movie version, Claire is straightening out and making over Allison. Where here, it's Beck and Andre who are straightening Robbie's hair. And he says the line, "Why are you guys doing this to me? Why are you guys being so nice to me?" Which is say, "You're letting us." In the movie, they're not friends. So this might make sense. Here, not so much. But also, I think there was a line deleted from the Paramount Plus version. Because one of them says, I think it's Beck, says, "You're going to look so much better without them black curls." And I swear, in the original version of this, he says, "Hey, I like black curls." And then looks at Andre. I think that was cut from this version. Because it sounds like he said, "I like black girls." Which, that's fine if he does. Each their own. I myself do not discriminate. Or I should say, I do not discriminate myself. A lovely lady is a lovely lady as long as you're over the age of 18. It's fine with me. But yeah, that scene doesn't make any sense. But we get the goodbyes, and then we got a parody of the punch, right? But this time, Tori loses the balloon, and she goes like this, and it freezes on her with the song playing in the background. So, and that's what plays in the credits too. It's just So it's fine. Does it work? Not so much. You're shoving. Let's see. How long is this movie? You're shoving an hour and a half movie, 37 minutes. I'm assuming the 7 minutes of credits. So a 90-minute movie into a half hour, and you're throwing everything at the wall, and a lot of the lines don't make any sense. You cut out some stuff, like Vernon going through the personnel files, the janitor as a whole, the launch scene, the scene where Bender comes back, falls down, and takes off is gone. The joke. There's a lot of stuff they take out. Even the parents dropping them off and picking them up, not here. They leave themselves. In fact, they're already coming into the school when the episode starts. We don't see them get dropped off or nothing. And at the end, it implied they all got there themselves, which, yeah, in this version, they have cars. It always baffled me back then that they're teenagers who look like they could be like seniors, and none of them drove. Someone else drove them. I guess you could say, well, they did that to make sure they went. But still. And here, Robbie rides a bike, which apparently is a continuity error, because he said in the previous episode, I think Aggressively Ever said it was season 2, episode 2, Beck falls for Tori, where he didn't know how to, well, Rex said that Robbie doesn't know how to ride a bike. Now, I'm in the side where you could say he could have learned to ride a bike between then. But also, these shows don't always follow continuity. There's a lot of there's stuff in Drake and Josh that don't have the continuity. How many times does Drake not have a car? When he should, right? We went through that in my review of that show. Go check that out. But, yeah, so I'm just saying. But yeah, it's a fun episode, but don't expect it to make sense because they're throwing everything from a 90-minute movie from 1985 into this, and they're PG-ifying it. So it's not always going to make any sense, but it's fine. The dancing scene. They do the dancing scene too after they had the laugh. They do the down to a T. Only it's not the song that's in the movie, which I. Right. Let's go soundtrack. We are not alone. We are not alone. That's the song that plays. I just had to look at the title and that came back to me. But yeah, and even Jade does the thing that Allison does where she is on the floor and stuff. But yeah, I forgot to mention that. So what are your thoughts on this episode? Let me know, comment, share, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm this guy, and I'll see you in the next one.